Welcome, welcome all. Thank you so much for registering for today's webinar, Floral Industry HR Blueprint, Aligning Structure with HR Strategies. A little bit of housekeeping for you all today. Please feel free, and we encourage you to use the chat box at the bottom of the screen to ask any questions or submit any comments. We only have 45 minutes with you today, so we might be addressing your questions and comments after the webinar if we don't have time to get to them. So again, please, we very much encourage you to use the chat box and be sure to include your name and your email address in case we do need to follow up after the webinar today. And make sure we are getting in contact with the right people in regards to your questions. When Pam and I, Pam is going to be our speaker today, we're discussing and determining the topic for today's webinar. We wanted to make sure that we were starting at the very beginning of the process of what it takes when you're thinking about hiring for new roles. So we hope that this is the beginning of a series of webinars, and we want to make sure that we are capturing and talking about some topics that you guys are interested in specifically for your companies and how we can best help your business moving forward. So in addition to questions and comments, we encourage you guys to submit suggestions on topics that you guys want to learn about in this future webinar series. So my name is Jordan. I am the membership and communications manager at Cal Flowers. And Cal Flowers is a floral trade association serving over 900 members across the US floral community. So many of you guys are Cal Flowers members who are attending today's webinar. And you guys are a community of very different businesses and organizations. So we have members who are growers, shippers, importers, wholesalers, retail florists, service providers, and more. And our mission as an association is to strengthen member businesses through logistics, education, and promotion to grow the use and enjoyment of flowers in the US. Today, we've got Pollen Talent who will be leading our discussion. And we're really excited to be partnering. Cal Flowers partners with Pollen Talent to provide their tailored floral recruitment services to our membership base at a discounted rate. So if you guys are looking to work with a recruitment service provider, Pollen Talent is a really great partner of ours. And as a member, you can access discounted rates for their services. So specifically, Pollen Talent is a recruitment firm dedicated exclusively to the floral industry. They serve wholesalers, florists, farms, and beyond, and they understand the sector's unique demands. So as you all know from operating your businesses, floral businesses are very unique. And Pollen Talent uses the specialized network and collaborative approach, and they help businesses find the right candidates from experienced leaders to entry-level talent, ensuring a strong, sustainable future for the floral market. So today we have Pam, who has over 15 years of experience in floral recruitment and is currently the Pollen Talent Senior Head HR Consultant, joining us to help us understand organizational structures and their impact on your HR functions, and to provide tools and guidance to improve recruitment, employee development, and retention. So I'm going to pass it over to Pam to kick off our discussion today and introduce herself if she has any more to share. And like I said, be sure to be using the chat to ask any questions or provide any comments throughout today's session.
Thank you, Jordan. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for attending and being part of this webinar, because we found it a very interesting tool that your company can use as far as HR strategies goes. So let's get a little bit into the subject. Let me see if the presentation is working. There. Okay. So Jordan did explain to you how we were talking and came up with the subject of the webinar. And as recruiters have found many times that when we are doing a recruitment process for a company, they mention, this is the profile we're searching for, this is what we want for a company. But usually, and it's very commonly found that they don't understand the why they're hiring somebody, not even like beginning from the organizational structure, with that should be the reason of why creating a new position, or we can see could be also point of view of training your own people with that. So that's why we came up with this specific subject that for us, human resources is the base of everything. So the purpose would be exploring the importance of organizational charts as a blueprint for effective HR practices. It's the blueprint for building your house, for building the people within, your family within. So having that visual and very understood and evaluated will help you make those strategies more effective. Also understand how create and analyzing your organizational chart will be a tool for HR success, because it will be not only for management, it will be also a tool for the employees to understand their purpose in the company. And then learn how organizational charts help navigate challenges that are unique in the floral industry. I think we all agree that the industry is unique. It has its unique challenges, and how we can use this blueprint to identify where we need to target and face the industry per se. Okay, that's the purpose of the webinar. So let's go into the overview of the floral industry context. Everyone here is working within the industry, has worked within the industry. So we understand it, and we live it, and we love it. So the industry, it's a vibrant and dynamic sector. It encompasses various elements that include specifics as cultivation, distribution, retail, event planning, floral design. You have very specific elements for this industry. It could be similar to others, but it's specific to this one. Okay. There are key players in this ecosystem of industry that move differently in it. So it's the distributors, florists, farms, wholesalers, and this makes a very diverse industry. So you're gonna have different ranges of products and different ways of working within the industry. And that's something very, very important to take into consideration. This will make an important issue to have a trained workforce to handle the challenges of the industry. It's not that there, but the product that the industry moves, it's a specific, and it isn't easy to handle. So it's an alive product, it's a perishable good that makes the industry a very fast-paced environment, and also requires for the employees and the people that work within the industry understand the lifespan and how the product behaves through time. So that's also a specific challenge that the floral industry has. Okay, let's overview the topics we're gonna see today, hopefully in these 45 minutes. Understanding the different organizational structures in the floral industry. It's the different organizational structures that they're more commonly found in the industry, but it's the structures that every company use in a period of time or not. Also evaluate how to evaluate your organizational chart and visualize the impact of that chart into decision-making and overall efficiency. And then we're gonna go into the HR strategies. Now that we have our diagram and we have the picture of what our organization structure is, let's go into the strategies that can be used to face those industry challenges. And the last one's gonna be a conclusion on how you can improve those HR practices as well. Okay, so let's go into the organizational charts. We have two common charts, organizational charts. One that is hierarchical. This is the drawing, like the typical drawing of a hierarchical structure. You can see that it has visually more of a vertical shape. The information usually goes from top to bottom. It is very organized into levels of management. And it characterizes for having this clear, it's clear authority levels, but I call that clear responsibility levels. That's something important just to identify as a visual identification of what a structure is, this hierarchical structure. This structure is also called rigid structures. I'm gonna go into detail what the strengths and the drawbacks of each one. But just for you to understand, when you have your organizational structure, see, okay, my organizational structure is more hierarchical, or my organizational structure is more flat. This is the opposite, the opposite structure, that it's more of a flat structure, it's more horizontal, visually horizontal. It minimizes the levels of management. Here it gives the employees the opportunities to make decisions without a manager supervising those decisions. And it's very identifiable because employees tend to wear multiple hats in those sort of structures. So it's important to understand that a particular company may have not one or the other, may have a department that it's more hierarchical, and a department that it's more flat. So you can have a mix of these two into your company's blueprint. Let's go into the overview of the hierarchical structure. So the hierarchical structure, it is often found, it says larger flower production or distribution companies. It's not, it isn't the rule, but it's usually found in them because you will require a very strict focus in processes compliant. So departments that have production, cultivation, and also distribution and logistics tend to have more of a hierarchical structure because that department needs to comply with process. So quality assurance departments are more hierarchical because they need to comply with those sort of structures. So when you have a larger structure, a number of employees, sometimes it's difficult to manage that bigger amount of employees. So you usually find this hierarchical structure that will allow you that management in a more effective way. That's why I put it, it's usually or typically found in that. So as I mentioned before, this particular structure is very good for process, for quality, for identifying clear tasks and responsibilities in each position, but it is a structure that may slow down communication in different levels. So it's not as easy to communicate when you have this verticality. So you will need to implement, or you will require a communication system in order to have everyone involved into the particular goal of the company. Also, it is called a rigid structure. It is rigid because you have those many levels. And if you find some change, rapid change in the market, in the outside market, it tends to be more difficult for this sort of structure to adapt fast to those changes, because you need to make changes in every management level. So those are the strengths of this and the drawbacks of having that hierarchical structure. Let's go into the flat structure. It's the opposite. So you can understand that because hierarchical don't give you effective communication systems, usually the flat structure has that benefit. It is direct and agile communication. It helps making decisions being done fast. So it would allow a quick decision making and have more of a collaboration into those decisions and even into defining the company goals. Here it says it's more common in smaller or family-run businesses, but it's, as I told you before, it's a department. For example, the sales department can have this flatness that will allow that department to act a little bit more proactive towards the market, and that will be helpful. So it's not the rule that it needs to have a small department. But usually when you begin a company, you tend to have a flat structure and have these employees wearing multiple hats. So that's why it's common in those sort of companies. Now, the lack of clearness into the roles, it's a challenge, because if you have one person that's doing probably two different job descriptions, you have ambiguity and unbalanced workloads. And that may lead to job and satisfaction and may affect the overall productivity. So it isn't that one is better than the other. It is good just to understand what's good about the one that you have and what do you need to strengthen in order to overcome those difficulties in that particular structure. So I went through the generality of the structures, and what I really wanted to focus is on evaluate your company's organizational chart. So that will be understand the impact on decision making and workflow. So the organizational structure determines how key decisions are made in the company. A rigid structure or hierarchical structure may improve task management efficiency, but could limit the responsiveness to demand changes, especially during peak seasons. So you need, when you have your organization chart, you have your blueprint, analyzes, do I have an effective communication among departments? Do I have bottlenecks, of communication bottlenecks in specific positions? Do I have centralized positions in the company that if that person is not there, everything can fall down? So it's important to understand that and identify that in your company's blueprint. The overall efficiency, it goes into how the tasks are divided in your company. So as I mentioned, flat structures adapt easily, but you don't have that clarity and that responsibility for each role. Also, it's important to consider the efficiency needs to be tied into the economic impact analysis. So in HR, we use an indicator that's called the head count. So each department has its own head count, so you know what's the cost of that department for the company. And now you need to understand what that department produced for the company and see if it's productive and efficient. So making that analysis, it's very, very, very important because you're gonna set your company's goals around that. So your organization, it's the machine that's gonna take you toward those goals. It's good to live nowadays because before many companies develop their own ways to evaluate organizational charts, a little bit of empiric knowledge and it worked, it didn't work just because of experience. But now we've seen that there's a lot of knowledge and available to us. AI also made that possible. COVID helped it because you now have tools that will help you and allow you to visually see the structure and understand and evaluate your particular structure. So what we're gonna see next are tools that will help you evaluate your company's organizational chart. These are just examples. We used common tools that are used in companies, not just in the flower industry, but with common challenges as the flower industry. So we're gonna pass this presentation to you so you can have those names of those tools and you can research by yourself and see if they offer a benefit or not. So ArcWeaver, it was a very intuitive tool. It is most of these tools are help you visualize the structure, which is always helpful, but some of them offer better analytics into them. This particular tool helped you make simulations and to see the effects of potential restructuring. So I found that particularly interesting. So if you're looking to hire somebody, understand how that will affect your structure. Will it make more rigid? Will it make more flat? Do I want this? Do I have more of a hybrid role? So it will help you understand the impact and also the economic impact of a new hire. I put the costs on hand just for you to see that they're very affordable. There's a free trial and there's a solo, which is $9 per month, a year payly 28. It depends on the company that investment budget and also in how big the operation is. So it's a very helpful tool. And also you can use some of these things and implement them in your company's software. So it's good to always review if you can improve your own company's software. Organime is another one. They do offer a free version. It's very similar. Each one is very similar, but this one will help you identify structural improvements without needing advanced HR analytics. So it will help you make those decisions a little bit more easy, just because the visual representation this tool gives, it's easier to understand. It's a little bit more intuitive. That's why I included this one as well. This other three, Lucid chart, it has various templates, pretty much like Canva. So it's working like that on creating your chart. But it was good because it visually assesses structure changes and identifies communication bottlenecks. That's, for me, very important to have, because hierarchical structures tend to have communication bottlenecks, and overly centralized roles, those are more commonly found in flat structures. So this particular tool helps you identify that on your chart, so that you can address them and see how you can improve those in your company. Board, it tracks organizational changes as well, because the industry, it's a dynamic industry. So companies move with that industry as well. So you may have a different structure when you began 5 years ago, not just by growth, but also because the industry, the market made your company change. So this particular tool helps you track those changes, and when were those made? Why were those made? So that's why I present this to you today, so you can research about them. And it will help you distribute the workforce, see what are the team responsibilities and the role hierarchies. So I like this one, particularly for the tracking the organizational changes. SAP success factors. SAP is one like of the branches of SAP use. So it's not an easy tool to have, but if you're used to working with ERPs, if you're used to working with SAP especially, this is very good because it will give you workforce analytics. That's what you use to make decisions. So this particular tool provides that. It provides the structures and succession planning that it's very needed, especially if you have somebody that's calling sick, understanding also how's the succession, who is gonna replace that, for how long, what are the skills that position requires. So this gives you metrics and effectiveness into the different organizational arrangements. So this are just some, because I found a lot of different tools you can use to evaluate your blueprint. And I'm sure that most of the companies may have those metrics being taken care of in specific softwares.
Pam,
Okay.
I had just a quick question.
Yeah.
For companies who maybe have a considerably smaller staff, so maybe like a staff of, 2 to 10, let's say, do you have any suggestions of how people could evaluate their current structure, or best steps for them initially when they're thinking about hiring?
Yes. So I would use maybe Organimi, or I would use Weaver, because it gives you that simulations. So you can input your organizational structure, you can understand how it is, and you can simulate the growth of that structure. What will happen, how the department will look, what would be the cost of that new hiring. So everything that gives you simulation into the changes of organizational structure, I think I would go for that specific tool.
Thank you. That's great advice.
Okay, so let's go into the HR strategies that will be aligning to your structure to face the industry. Okay, so the flower industry faces several HR challenges. I think we all lived through them. The seasonal hiring fluctuations, skill gaps, which is very important and it's key to identify the skill gaps in the workforce, and the high turnover rates. So addressing these challenges, it's essential for maintaining a productive workforce and also because you want to comply with your company goals. So what I want to say here, and you think everyone knows, this industry, the flower industry, requires very specific skills. Okay, so it's the skills of knowing the product, it's the skills of handling the product, logistics goals, it's the skills of floral design, so understanding that designing process as well. So that's a particular challenge for the flower industry, because not every employee or every candidate will come with that knowledge. So it's important to identify that that's a challenge for the industry, and that HR and managers needs to work around that. So let's go into each of the subjects and how to face them. So the seasonal hiring fluctuations of the hiring process, the recruiting process. So what's key in this is that the landscape, the working landscape constantly evolves due to seasonal demands. You are competing not just within the flower industry, but you are competing with other industries as well for talent. So that's important to have into consideration. Just because you wanna bring talent and make them fall in love with a particular company. So it's good to have that into consideration. How to begin with recruitment? It's understanding your organizational needs. Okay. So for understanding what your organization needs, you need to regularly assess your team's skills. So this will involve a periodically evaluation of the skills of your team members, of your employees. And this needs to be done not in a fear environment. It is for improve. This is where you are, this is where I want to take you, and understand where you want to take them. So what's the goal? How do you want to your people help you get that company goal? So understanding what your organization needs as far as hiring, it's basic, and it's something that needs to have that analysis prior to, okay, let's call the headhunter and bring us somebody that can do this. It has a why, a reason why you're gonna do it. For example, the analysis of business trends. We have worked within the industry for years now with many different sorts of companies. And we have seen that a lot of the new hiring comes from a business and an industry trend. For example, we've seen that they identified that a lot of the e-commerce channels are moving very good. So, okay, we need to hire somebody that knows Amazon or that knows how that e-commerce sales works. Other company, for example, wanted more towards the mass market. We wanted somebody that has those connections to the supermarkets for us to understand and have a grasp of that channel as well. So that analysis of the business trends will also make your recruitment process proactive and not reactive. It's what you want to do with what you're seeing in the market. This proactive recruiting planning, which I call it like a calendar of hiring. So you can outline what certain roles are typically needed throughout the year. Most companies have that because we know the seasonality of the industry. So we know that Valentine's Day is hard. We know that wedding season needs that floral design style or event planning. So we do have that, but it's also important to consider the months where the company has more cash flow. So how you're gonna invest? Do you want your company to grow? Do you want to strengthen specific department to face challenges next year? So having that proactive recruitment plan also involves that, not just the hiring, but also understanding what you want for each department next year. The floral industry characterizes by its rapid changing demands, which often requires flexibility and bold definitions. So this is what we have seen also in new hirings, especially this year and after COVID. This optimization of tasks a little bit more towards a flatter structure into creating hybrid roles. So it has worked. I think it works very well for the industry because it allows you to respond fast to the industry demands. So we have seen, for example, positions that combine or blend customer service with inventory management. So that will help the employee pivot and understanding what to forecast and actually managing the inventory because he is doing the customer service. We also have seen the floral designers doing the sales, and that has created a new product creation because they are creating in the floral design, but as doing sales, they identify what the customer needs. So it's a good strategy to have those hybrid roles. And the last but not least is building a strong employer brand. That's that's the key as far as recruiting goes. And we sense that because just when we say the company name, you have a lot of people that want to work with them. So that it's a clear sign that they have a strong employer brand. So doing that, it's promoting your company culture, highlighting what makes your organization unique, and this will give you candidates that has or that share the same values that your employees. That's the idea. You foster your employees and you want similar candidates because it's working for your company. So building a strong employer brand is very important as well. I don't know if you have any particular questions as far as recruiting goes.
So far, we don't have any, but please do use the chat if you guys have questions that come in. And maybe, Pam, just to maybe summarize what you've said so far, sounds like maybe the first step to the hiring process is understanding your organizational structure, the needs of your business, and then thinking about what roles need to be filled or what responsibilities need to be filled, and the flexibility within those roles and responsibilities, and then making sure you're communicating to potential employees about what your brand stands for. Is that correct, or is there anything you want to add to that?
Yes, no, it's on point. And actually, because we began with organizational chart, when you have your chart and you identify a specific positions, tasks, um, we see that a lot of people, due to the fast-paced environment, they hire somebody and you duplicate responsibilities. So there's not a reason, like a hard reason of why hiring somebody, because that could be a reason of just training the current position and not necessarily hiring somebody new. So to being able to understand what you want out of your company chart, that's the key point to recruit or train or to retain talent. So that's a little bit where we're gonna go. So this one was just for recruiting. And we're gonna go to the talent development. So that's the question you need to make when you want to make a change. Do I want to hire somebody new, or do I need to train the current person that it's at that position? That would be like the first question you want to make, always involving your company's goal. If your goal is having more clients, okay, so you probably need to hire somebody new because two hands can only make what two hands can make. But be sure of how you're gonna make that division for that new hiring to work. Okay.
Pam, sorry not to interrupt, but we do have a question I think that touches on what you're sharing. So the question is, if you need a salesperson, is that enough of a reason to be hiring them, or should you be thinking about things outside of that? Should there be more insight or thought put into making that hiring decision?
Yes, with sales, it involves a lot when you're hiring a sales position because it will involve how your sales strategy is targeted. Is it targeted on towards a specific channel? So it's a wholesale, it's florist, it's retail, or is it channel at location? Or is it channeled just both different accounts. How many accounts do each sales representative can handle? So you do need to take consideration of a lot, because if you, for example, if you have an account manager that is able to manage, truly able to manage 12 accounts and can do just the following up of another 30, do I need to strengthen those 30 he's just following up and hiring an assistant sales representative? Or do I want to grow my sales and bring new customers? And I need another more strategic sales position. Or does the current account manager needs training into identifying new opportunities of sales, and I can give them a workshop for them to understand and bring me those sales, and then I can have an assistant just managing those. So I don't know if I answered the question, but that's how you analyze if you need to hire somebody or not.
Yeah, that's a great insight. It sounds like there's a lot more to consider when you're making that decision for the company. And just so you know, Pam, we have around 10 minutes left, so I know you have a lot more to get through.
Okay, so let's go. Okay, let's go into the talent development and skill gaps. This is a very important subject. So what we advise for this is to create a competency assessments to assess and evaluate the skills that your workforce has. It could be with surveys or self-assessments, performance reviews, observations and feedbacks from supervisors or even team members. So the importance of creating this matrix is defining the skills you want your people to have in the company, establish the rating 1 through 5, 1 through 10, just to see how object that rating is. Collect the feedback, how it's going to be collected. Is it going to be in computer? Who is going to be able to access those ratings? Document the comments, set the goals, because usually you assess the people, but you don't set goals for them, and doing the following up. So here is a competency matrix template that we are, as Poland Talents, developed. This is actually the one we use when we evaluate candidates for the industry. You can put more competencies, but these ones are the ones that we saw that are core and that helps us identify if a candidate has that talent for the industry or not. So it's the job knowledge, it's understanding the product, the design, the industry. Being part of the industry is very important in the flower industry. The customer service, how agile they are to engage with customers and how they address those needs effectively. Teamwork, so contributing to the team, problem solving, identifying the problem and being able to offer solutions, adaptability, to have that flexibility to respond to changes and demands. Logistics management, logistics is part of the industry. Even if you are a florist and you don't focus your full time on logistics, that's a part of the industry, because how you get the product, how you forecast, and how the quality is maintained, it's very important. So you need to understand the logistics of the product. Floral design skills, if you are a salesperson, you need to understand the basics of floral designing. Communication, it's also important because it's a visual industry. And professional growth. What we have found as a competency is that people within the flower industry needs to have that urge to learn, to grow, to have something better. We are not people that like this same stage all the time. So finding that professional growth interest in a candidate shows that they want to grow, and that would be important as well. So after you've made all that evaluation, you have your competency matrix for each of your employee, you can tailor training programs. And we're gonna see the difference on training programs and on wellness programs. For the training programs, you have a lot of different options to address those skill gaps. Floral design workshops have worked, you need to understand the floral design. Certification programs, which I personally like because they offer examination process. So it enhances that credibility that you actually know what your certification program says. Retail and business management courses, it's important, even if you are a floral designer, it's important to understand the business behind that. Why do you do that? What's the wasting, and understand the business of it. Sustainability training, for me, it's towards the resources management, how you manage resources. Online training platforms, community college programs, workshops by industry associations, very important to consider them as well. Internships and apprenticeships, for me, it's key. It's awesome because that's the way you can create a high potential program. Like, have this talent, human resource talent, enter your company and identify who can be a high potential into each position, and giving them a little bit of the industry for them to fall in love. So this would be how to tailor training programs after you evaluate, so just to shorten those skill gaps. Also, something very important, it's the mentorship program or continuous learning certifications. So the mentorship does involve the leaders, how your leaders guide the less experienced employees. So how they work. So if they have the industry insights, are they sharing that to other employees? How they share that is also very important. So identify or create a mentorship program can be a very useful tool to reduce those skill gaps you may find in your people. The career pathing and professional growth as well, outline or visually provide a pathway of growth. I know that not many companies are able to grow their structure because it involves an investment, but you can create a hybrid role, a hybrid position, and give everyone the opportunity to reach out to that position if they want to. So you're giving them the option, and that's a sense of path, creating a path. If you want to change your path, you are able to access that hybrid role, for example. With all of this, it's very important to have employee management softwares. So before you just have the files and you have like to look at them, now we have the employee management softwares. These ones that are listed here are also examples that you may find, but surely your company may have a software that allows you to have that employee management. So Bamboo HR helps you with managing employee records, tracking time off, and conducting performance reviews. That's very helpful. So they give you that performance review and you're going to have that on the system. Solo People was good for employee onboarding. That's why I like this one, and I put it there. Time tracking as well, and performance management, very useful. Sage HR gives you employee records, performance, and time offs, a little bit more basic, but it's what you need. It's very, very useful tool as well. And Deputy helps you with the scheduling, time tracking, and employee communication. So if you're having a bottleneck into communication, Deputy would be an employee management tool that will help you with those bottlenecks. Okay.
Thanks, Pam. We are at time, but let's go ahead and we'll stay on for another 5 to 10 minutes. So hopefully people can
Yes,
stay with us. You're a wealth of information. So, and there's so much to cover in this time. So let's stay on for another 5 to 10 minutes. Hopefully the crew can stay on.
Yes, I'm finishing with the last one, which is the retention, talent retention and high turnover rates. Okay. So we know that the industry has and faces high turnover, especially in entry-level positions and retail sales area. It does involve the physical nature of the work and the seasonal fluctuations in pay. So it is the industry and we need to work around it. So how do we work around it? Now we have those wellness programs. Before, for training, we had the training programs. Now for facing retention, we need those wellness programs. And those wellness programs can go into access to counseling services, ergonomic trainings, standing mat stations, stretching programs, workshops with guest artists. I've seen that those work very well for people, for employees, they like them. Team building, it's also very interesting to have as a wellness program, and flexible scheduling as well. So what you do is you have the program presentation, program growth, program development, and diversification. So just look into your company. I'm sure that you have a wellness program developed for your people. So the program presentation is to get first into it, analyze how it works, analyze how much it costs, and analyze how it is received among your employees. And you can offer incentives for participation, so gift cards, discounts, reimbursement for wellness expenses. You can have those incentives to really have a program presentation. Program growth, it's like creating one specific wellness program for one department and see if it can work for other departments or other locations. So growing that wellness programs among your company. Program development is developing something new for your employees, but it has to be something related to their current position. So for example, if it's a physical nature, fitness classes or mental health workshops or even nutrition plans can help into program development. And diversification, I've seen like going completely out of the box and going to more personal level, help your employees under personal challenges. It could be financial wellness programs. It could be social activities just for them to be outside. Those are the four ways to have those wellness programs being met and reduce that turnover rates. For the turnover, it's very important to understand the employee engagement. So you have three components for employee engagement. You have the emotional commitment, they have a feel of belonging, they have a feel of purpose. You have the job satisfaction, they like what they do. There are a lot of many people that like to cut the stems, to like to have the water, the coolers, they like what they do. And you have the advocacy, which is employees are so happy within the company that they promote the company to other employees, to customers. So if you have, those are the three components of employee engagement that you can actually rate. And the key drivers to creating those components are building a positive workplace culture, which has a lot to do with communication and clarification, and even the organizational structures help them see what the purpose is in the company. Employee recognition and appreciation, very needed, very important. Team building and community engagement. We have seen that the company alone in the flower industry, it doesn't work. It needs to be connected to other companies within the industry. So it's important to have that engagement as well. We have the work-life balance flexibility, and that came with a lot of strength after COVID. So offering some of flexible schedules, or offering, for example, the employee needs to understand that they need to be at location because it's a very face-to-face service. But when the employee asks for permission or personal permission, you need to be flexible as well. That shows that receptiveness and understanding that you need to be flexible and have that balance as well. And the role of leadership, as I mentioned before, with this mentorship programs, if the leader shows engagement, if the leader shows enthusiasm, the employees that work for them are gonna work the same way. So the idea is to understand what the leaders do into their department's engagement. And that's very important to analyze. And then the conclusions, we had the 5 minutes, I think we did it. A well-structured organization not only clarifies the roles and responsibilities, but also enhances communication, improves decision-making, and fosters employee engagement. So you need to evaluate your organizational structure, enhance your recruitment strategies, make them more proactive and not receptive, invest in talent development, and focus on employee retention and engagement. So that's the idea we wanted to convey today, and I hope I did it.
You did a great job, Pam. Thank you so much for sharing so much valuable information. There was a lot to cover in a short period of time. And so, as you guys heard earlier on today's call, this was a very high level overview of a lot of these topics that we know take a lot more discussion and time and commitment into learning about and implementing in your own businesses. So we would love to hear from you all. We're going to be sending out a survey in addition to the webinar recording and the slides. We want to know what topics interested you today, or what topics that we didn't get to touch on today that you want to take a deeper dive into in following webinars, because Pam has offered to be able to be available to us to have multiple webinars similar to this one. So we would love to hear y'all's feedback. And then also, just want to thank Pam so much for being on today's call and sharing all this valuable information. If you guys have any follow-up question, Paulin, you can direct them to Pollen Talent, or you can reach out to Cal Flowers. We'll be sure to have our contact information included in that email that you guys receive following the webinar. So thank you guys so much for attending. We really appreciate your time, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.